Hello and welcome to another episode of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Dad, we are in grade mode. I have my red pen, just like a good teacher should. We are grading the 2024/2025 off seasons of each MLB team. You excited?
Very, and it was a busy offseason. Some teams did much better than others.
Yes, we are going to dish out passing grades, A's, and F's.
That's not a passing grade.
Right, I think, yes, passing grades and then failing grades. We, Dad, are going to do this a little differently than what we usually do, and I think it's going to keep our listeners on their toes a little bit more. We normally break down everything by division, East, Central, West, and people can kind of like skip forward and be like, when are they going to talk about my Astros? We are doing this as all 30 teams, and we're doing it in ranked grade order of our list. So if you are wondering when your Padres might get talked about, you're just going to have to watch the whole video. And then in the description below, we are going to average out, obviously, like our collective, what our podcast thinks of each team. So if my dad thinks somebody's an A and I think someone's a C, we collectively are going to give them a B. We're also going to make it a little harder on ourselves. We are only allowed to give out 5 pluses for all 30 teams. So there's not going to be this. We want to make some hard decisions. We want to put people in those true different letter grade camps in hopes that, maybe it does stir up a little bit of drama or comments and interactions with our followers. And again, shameless plug, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Dad, we factor in everything, right? We factor in, did you hit your expectations? Going into the offseason, if you said, we're going to trade XYZ, we're going to cut payroll, we're going to go out and sign this person. If you hit your expectations, that factors into the grade. Even if you are in rebuild mode, maybe your rebuilding offseason went really well. We do also factor in missed opportunities. If you said, we got to trade this person, and you didn't trade that person, that's a missed opportunity. It's going to count against you.
Arenado.
Sure. Perfect example of that. I was thinking Jordan Montgomery for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
He's on the block.
He's been on the block for about 5 months. Again, all those things are going to come to factor in for our grades. We'll also go over why we're not just going to blatantly go Dodgers A, see ya, move on to the next team. It's going to be a longer podcast, so hang in there, folks. I appreciate you listening. We're going to go into why we gave that grade. We're going to defend our grade just like any teacher should. Dad, do you have any A pluses?
I do not have any A pluses. I have a lot of A's.
Then I will go first.
Okay.
I gave out one of my pluses was in the A plus world because the Dodgers were far and away had the best offseason. Dad, I will talk about the Dodgers first.
Sure.
They improved, very simply, what was already the best team in baseball and made it even better. Getting Roki Sasaki, I think, was a huge win, but they also got Blake Snell. They got the newer Kim from Korea. They signed Tanner Scott, which is one of the best things that I called all offseason if you go watch our free agent predictions. I think they, improved what was already a great rotation. They re-signed Teoscar, Kike, Clayton Kershaw. They extended Tommy Edman. They signed Conforto. And I didn't think I said Yates earlier. They lost a couple things. They traded away Lux and Ryan Brazier, one to those Cubs, one to the Reds. Look how that worked out.
Yeah.
They also lost one of my favorite players, Joe Kelly, Walker Buehler to the Red Sox, and also Jack Flaherty. However, I don't think any of these were a net loss in any different part of their roster because either they improved in the infield, they improved in the bullpen, they improved in their starters. So they're an A+. They had one of the best off seasons I can remember.
I agree. I think, if you really think their opening move was get Blake Snell, what a really smart move that was. If you think of their rotation, if they get it, if not when, but they're getting a playoff series, their first 5 starters are very, very good. Again, that's, Rookie is going to be really interesting to see. They got Kevin for Rookie of the Year already. It's going to be a heck of a, season for them. Well over 100 wins. They did rule the offseason, and there was a lot of jealous teams looking at them and going, wow, they're unstoppable right now.
Mm-hmm. Dad, I'm curious. Who? Obviously, I said the Dodgers had the best offseason. Who had the best offseason according to you? Was it also the Dodgers or some other team?
It was also the Dodgers.
Just you just had them at an A instead of an A plus.
Yep.
Okay.
I save my pluses.
Okay. Well, then I will let you go to tell who had the second best offseason. And I'm assuming also an A by that standard.
I'm going with the Yankees.
Whoa, okay.
They lost, a big part of that. It was kind of between the Yankees and the Mets, but the more, information and, Max Fried adding to that, I think people have underestimated Devin Williams. He's going to be a key contributor to the Yankees. He is one of the best closers in baseball. I think Bellinger and Goldschmidt are just golden when it comes to that lineup. They kind of rebuilt that middle of the order after losing Soto. But I think the big four that I have on my list was a dynamic four. Fried, Williams, Bellinger, Goldsmith, I think all going to be stars. There could be 3 All-Stars out of the 4, maybe 4 All-Stars. I think once they lost Soto, they said, okay, let's get to work. And I think Devin Williams might be the key to that offseason for him.
I don't have the Yankees as an A, and I will give sort of the counterpoint to why I have them lower down my list, and that'll be a fun little debate for our listeners and our Yankee fans. Our Yankee fans are not going to like my number 2 offseason, which is the Boston Red Sox. I also give the Boston Red Sox an A. Really, until they signed Bregman, it was probably around a B plus for me. So really that recent push, we're filming this at the end of February, sort of the pseudo end of the offseason. March is all spring training. This is why we're doing it at the end of the offseason, this grade. They really capitalized on what I thought was a weakened AL East. I'm not giving out grades for anyone else yet, but I think they saw this sort of window and went for it. The Orioles didn't do anything, so the Red Sox got better on that. The Yankees, I'm going to make an argument that the Yankees, at least offense, got worse, so they went out and improved their offense. And I don't really, and again, the Blue Jays will see what kind of net happens. They could have I'm going to argue that they had a decent offseason, but it's still kind of confusing. The Rays, also, they could have done more. So I really think the Red Sox capitalized on that weaker, and really AL in general. I mean, the Dodgers clearly are the best team in the NL. Who is going to be the best team in the AL next year, I think, is the fun debate. They traded for Garrett Crochet. Every team could have tried this. I really think the Orioles could have made a similar package. If you look at Kyle Teal versus Samuel Basallo, the Red Sox and the Orioles could have made the same package for Garrett Crochet, but the Red Sox won. And they also have history of trading with the White Sox with Chris Sale, and what Chris Sale eventually helped them get with the 2018 World Series.
And the Red Sox this year had the number 1 minor league system.
Right, and they still have a lot of high potential.
Even after the trade.
They still have a lot of high potential ceilings. But again, we're talking about the offseason. They signed Bregman, Walker Buehler, Chapman, Patrick Sandoval, who will be that sort of second half addition for coming back from injury. They kept all their MLB talent. They didn't have to trade any of their roster to get Crochet. So they really just overall improved. I mean, Jarren Duran is a fantastic player. They got to keep him. Everyone thought Abreu was going to get traded, or Yoshida, or Tristan Casas. They kept all those people and were still able to do all these deals. They did lose Tyler O'Neill, Danny Jansen, Nick Pivetta, Chris Martin, but I don't think there was any real net losses, even in the bullpen, because Garrett Whitlock is going to move from starter to the bullpen. And that was kind of my thing with a lot of these grades, is you didn't net lose anything. You didn't get worse in any aspect. You improved offense, pitching, bullpen, bench. So I was very much very impressed with the Red Sox, and they did that Bregman signing that was enough for me to go from B plus to an A and give them the second best offseason in baseball.
Bregman is going to terrorize the Green Monster.
I would love that.
There'll be dents everywhere from him.
For $40 million, I hope he does.
You know what? The GM does a great job with Boston. He really has some chutzpah to make the Red Sox better. He's had some ownership background. I think the 2 keys to their offseason, Bregman and one. By having the early outs of the contract and everything else, and he wanted to play in Boston. He really wanted to play in Boston. I don't know if he's going to be second baseman or third baseman, but he is in the lineup every day. He'll have a great year. The other one is Walker Buehler. I think if he's healthy, what an addition he is. And again, they went on a limb. They said, hey, we're going to, gamble that he is going to be, number 2, number 3 starter. And if he's healthy, what an addition. So that thing. But the key to their offseason, in my opinion, Nick Pivetta, who had a qualifying offer, signed elsewhere. So their draft pick they had to give up to sign Bregman, they got back when Pivetta signed with San Diego.
I don't know if that was a key to the offseason.
Well,
I thought Bregman was the key to the offseason. Crochet was key to the offseason.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about giving up all the things they had to do to get Bregman, Pivetta kind of made it null and void with the stipulations of the signing. So by losing Pivetta, which they really were okay by losing, all of a sudden by him going to San Diego, they got that draft choice back. So it's good for their future. But Bregman being, I don't know if he's going to hit 3rd, 4th in that lineup, but what a lineup they have right now.
One final thing I'll say about the Red Sox is you always want your team to go out and do it. Go out and make an impact with a second-year GM, to spend available money to make impact moves, and that's what the Red Sox did. And I think a lot of you mentioned jealousy for the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers almost are at that like unobtainable how much money they actually have, which is funny that they don't have the richest owner in baseball. That's the Mets. The Red Sox, I think, have money, obviously, but they're not the Dodgers. They're not the Mets. They're not the Yankees. And they were able to not necessarily, outside Bregman, they weren't dramatically increasing payroll. Crochet is still in arbitration. They traded some players for them. Buehler's a 1-year contract. Chapman's in his twilight years. They got him kind of on a good deal. Sandoval is that rebuild injury candidate. They got him on a good deal. Yeah. So outside Bregman, they really didn't say, let me just go sign the top 5 names, right? They didn't get Soto and Fried and all that. So I also think that they did a good mixture of capital and prospect capital, which I think is the perfect kind of GM. Dad, did they land 3 on your list, and what grade did you give them?
Red Sox got an A.
Okay.
And
where were they ranked on your list?
I'll go 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. If inevitably when I say something that you dramatically disagree with, you do not have to add to me. You can say, especially if I say like the Diamondbacks are an A, which I'm not going to say, and you're like, no, they're a C. Just as it gets down to your list, that's just like what I'll do with the Yankees.
Okay.
Kind of retort when it makes sense.
Okay.
But I'm glad that we have, a similar top couple of lists. My number 3, Dad, is also going to piss off Yankee fans because I'm choosing the Mets. I gave the Mets an A, very simply because they achieved their goal. They got Soto. Like, getting Juan Soto was the goal from at least 2 teams. You could maybe argue 3 or 4 this offseason, but it ultimately was always going to come down to which New York team was going to land Juan. They didn't just stop there, because I think if they stopped there, then you can really make an argument, well, you just got Soto, and you're going to sell a lot of jerseys, but I don't know if you made your team better. Because of so much money they went into Soto, they couldn't go get the top talent elsewhere. But they still got Montes and Holmes and Minter. They're re-signed Alonso, Minaya, Winker, Stanek. They traded for the 4th outfielder, Jose Siri. Again, I don't think they deserve an A+ because they didn't dramatically improve the rotation. They did lose Severino and Quintana, some hitters with Martinez and Iglesias, a great outfielder, and Bader. I like Bader more than Siri. I think they might have, that's a negative move, but then you have Juan Soto, and you're like, well, your offense obviously got better. So they're an A. They did make their team better. They hit their goal. They have so much money. You can obviously always make the argument they could have done more. They could have signed one big free agent name for the rotation, like a Jack Flaherty. They didn't, so they're just an A, and they're my 3rd best offseason. Dad, for you, are they going to be 4th, or are they a different class, and you just want to talk about your 4th place team?
They are number 4, and I echo your sentiments greatly. I think I agree. The superstar, Soto was, the contract you received was just hard to believe in baseball you can have that kind of contract.
Yeah.
But along the way, they, Clay Holmes is not going to be a starter. We'll see how he does with all that. Manaya is hurt already, so they may go back to the market. Quintana might become a Met in the next few days or whatever because they're looking to replace him. But yeah, I think what they've done is they put the superstar and then got pieces along the way. I think pitching is still a question mark with the Mets, especially with the injury right off the bat in spring training. But again, as far as money spent, the Mets were pretty, astronomical in that. Alonso coming back, I think it's a key for them as well. So, fan favorite.
Did you also give them an A?
An A.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
So they will end up with an A as we both gave them that.
Yeah.
Same with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I will say something about Clay Holmes. I don't think the starting rotation experiment's going to work, but that will inevitably change their bullpen, and it will make their bullpen better. That I think got a little weaker, and I think they are going to be the team that possibly trades for like a Dylan Cease. They could still sign Quintana back. They could sign Gibson if they wanted to. So I don't think this roster is necessarily the roster come July 31st. They will make improvements. And they still had a great offseason. They didn't get a plus. It's one of those things when you get an A back on your paper that you're like, damn, I put a lot of effort into this. And they did, but it was just an A.
Made a lot of noise at the beginning and then kind of like petered out.
Okay. Dad, do you have any other A grades?
I do.
Okay, then you can go next.
I have the Chicago Cubs.
Okay, so that would be your fifth place team?
Yes. Got to give credit to Jed Hoyer. He had a great offseason. He went with a plan to really bolster his roster, and he made almost 17 additions to the roster. You have a whole new bullpen. You have a whole new bench. You have a lineup that is pretty formidable, especially if their young guys come through. They almost got Bregman. I think that I think it was a pretty close decision for Bregman. But Kyle Tucker is the key. Probably just a 1 year, stay in Chicago. But boy, what a great addition to that lineup. Brings probably one of the top 5 to 7 ball players to Chicago, and he'll do well with Wrigley. And then the bullpen is so much better than last year. They have a new bench. Justin Turner, I think, is going to get a lot of at-bats, either DH or first base. But what a key guy for the bullpen. So that late signing was huge. And just very impressive with the bullpen. You got to give him credit for becoming probably the lead team in the Central Division right now. But kudos to Jed and his hard work during the offseason.
The Cubs are my next ranked team. They're my 4th overall thing, but I'm out of giving out A's. I gave the Cubs a B+. And the Cubs are B+ because of trades, right? They really did better trading than they did signing. They got Tucker, like you said. They got Presley. They got Brazier. You didn't mention Eli Morgan. I think he's a great bullpen arm from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Their signings were pedestrian. They signed Colin Rea, Matthew Boyd. I don't think they're impact starters. I think they're more innings eaters. Kind of same with Tealbar. And then are these guys going to be bench players? Are they going to be platoon for some third base with Shaw, with John Birdie and Justin Turner? I think inevitably you have to say they're bench pieces. So I really would have liked them to have signed a front-end starter. If Amoniga is your ace, then Justin Steele is like that number 2. Then it kind of starts to drop off, and I don't see that. If I have a 5-game series, I see some opportunities to beat the Cubs. They definitely improve the offense. I just think that if I was to give them an A, it's not such a miss, in my opinion, to have gotten a Corbin Burns, to have gone for even a Jack Flaherty. They didn't lose that much. Obviously, they lost Paredes and Tauchman and Hendricks. Paredes was, I think, the only MLB talent that they traded away in any of the trades. They did lose out on not just Bregman, but Jesus Luzardo. Jeff Passan said that was almost done, and it didn't work. And then 2 minutes later, the Phillies got Jesus Luzardo.
I think he failed his physical.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple different things, but Jeff Passan said that was the biggest miss of the offseason. Where I think that would have gotten them to that A for me.
Yeah.
So they're B+. I think really capitalize on we'll get to the Cardinals not doing anything. The Pirates not doing enough. The Reds doing some stuff. The Brewers not doing much at all either. So very similar to the Red Sox as they saw this go button and they hit the accelerator. But again, B+. You got an A, so maybe that averages out to an A in post. But those are my top 4 teams. Dad, I'd like to go next so I can get caught up with you because we do have the same top 5.
Great.
Yankees are a B. So I'm no longer in the B+ range. I'm now dropping to the B. So if you are a team that we haven't said yet, Patrick is now B on down. Maybe you're upset and you're unfollowing. Who knows? Please don't. I love to interact with our listeners. So Yankees are a B. I really think I put away my bias. I generally like talking to Yankees fans. I think you know baseball, so in my heart, I hope you do listen to my perspective. I can't give someone an A when their plan A was to get Juan Soto. So when your plan A didn't work out and it failed, you turn to your plan B, and I have to grade you on like a second attempt. So this second attempt, it's like you turn in your paper late or whatever. So you're naturally working towards that. With that said, your plan B was great. Hey, we can't improve the offense. Let's go improve the pitching. Max Fried on the front end, Devin Williams on the back end. Fantastic. Love those players. I think Goldie is better than Rizzo. So I think that both offensively and defensively.
Yes.
Even though he's older, so I love that signing. Trading for Bellinger just always seemed like it was going to happen, even when Bellinger was a Dodger, that he'd be a Yankee at some point.
You know, his dad played for the Yankees.
There you go. So I think those additions were great. However, if you asked any MLB fan who is the Yankees' opening day third baseman, I don't know if you have an answer. You have a glaring hole at third base. Now that could be LeMahieu. That could be Peraza maybe. There could be a couple different plug-and-play options. But you lost Soto, and then you didn't supplement the offense really in any way. You have a really discontented Marcus Stroman who just says, I'm a starter. I'm not the sixth person. We're not going to do a six-man rotation. It seems to me that you could find Marcus Stroman for a third base trade really easily. I think that the two Mets teams really line up well. Marcus Stroman for Brett Beatty. You get off Stroman's contract. Brett Beatty may or may not work out for you, but hey, at least you're off Marcus Stroman's contract. Maybe Brett hits 200 and you cut him anyways, but you're off Marcus Stroman. So there are some lineups where that...
And the Mets could use another starter.
Right, exactly. So I think just having that glaring hole and having a person that doesn't fit, so you kind of have like clubhouse issues, they did a good offseason. A B is a good grade, and as a teacher, I would tell my students all the time that B's great. B's, you understood the assignment. I'm not worried about your plans or your education moving forward. The Yankees will still be winners in 2025. I just think that 7, 8, 9 lineup gets pretty bad. You really hope that the Coles and the Frieds carry you, but if a pitcher gets rocked or there's an injury along the way, you don't have that offense outside a couple players to really back it up. So Yankees are a B, but again, 5th overall. I think we've done your top 5 too, right?
Yes.
I've talked for 2 teams. Who is your next best team? Who is your 6th ranked team or possibly another B+ or something like that?
Diamondbacks.
B or B+?
B.
Okay.
Again, Corbin Burns, I think, is the key. They have an ace now.
Sure.
And I think that is great. Getting Josh Naylor, I thought, was a key to their offseason. I think he'll do well in Arizona. Supplies some power, pretty good defensive first baseman. And getting Kendall Graveman back in the bullpen, if he has anything like he was 3 years ago, they picked up a great, bullpen addition. But Corbin Burns, I think, was how that happened. No one knew he was talking to the Diamondbacks, and all of a sudden signed a contract. He lives in Arizona, but I think that was a huge plus for them. And I think the Diamondbacks are going to be strong this year.
Mm-hmm. Diamondbacks are also my 6th ranked team and a B, so we're in lockstep there, Dad. I said they're a B because of Burns. There's a little alliteration there. I'm not going to add too much to that, but the reason that they're not an A is because, similar to the Yankees, they failed to trade somebody. They failed to trade Jordan Montgomery. They said they were going to. The owner said it was like a biggest mistake. Now you have probably an upset Montgomery still on your team. And I think they did get worse offensively. Josh Naylor versus Christian Walker. I would actually rather have Christian Walker in my team offensively. Energy-wise, it's Naylor, but numbers alone, I'd rather have Christian Walker. He's better defensively too. You also lost Jock Peterson, and I really don't think you bringing Grichuk and Naylor are not better than those two people. So they had a great offense last year. Obviously, Ketel Marte got MVP votes, but I think maybe trading Jordan Montgomery for any offensive piece would have probably got them only probably to like a B plus. But yeah, so we're in the lockstep there. My 7th team, Dad, I'm still giving out Bs. The Texas Rangers, the 2023 World Series champions. Kind of simply put, their parts in were better than their parts out. I love the Jake Burger trade. I liked them getting Garcia from the Nats, and we'll get to the Nats eventually, but I think Garcia is a controllable bullpen arm. They've really completely revamped their bullpen, and I think made the bullpen better. They signed Jock, like I said, a whole new bullpen. I'm not trying to list every single name. Re-signing Evaldi, they did say that they wanted to re-sign Evaldi or Heaney, and they got, in my opinion, the better pitcher. Yeah. So that's a win. They lost some people. They traded Lau, but obviously they kept Jake Burger. Or they traded for Jake Burger, who has more offensive pop than Nate. They lost, again, a ton of bullpen pieces. Scherzer, but he's 40 now. I just think, again, the parts in were better than the parts out.
Very good.
Is that also, Dad, are we boring the listeners now? Is that also your 7th ranked team, or do you have somebody else?
I have somebody else that you're going to just freak out with.
Okay.
I have the Nationals as a B.
Well, people are looking at this and just seeing how far back my Nats are. This is our biggest difference, and it's not close.
Well.
Okay. So this is your 7th ranked offseason.
Correct.
Holy shit. Okay.
The Nationals, I thought, improved greatly. I think their additions of this week with getting Kyle Finnegan comes back helps that bullpen. Jorge Lopez had a great year last year. I think those two in the bullpen have added to that. Paul DeYoung, just great addition. He's going to add some veteran leadership. Last year he had 24 homers. So I think that's a nice addition, gives him some power, middle part of the lineup. Josh Bell is there being a DH, and then Nathaniel Lowe, he's going to be the first baseman. Bell the DH. I just think they have a stronger lineup, and then I think that adds to their young folks. They offset their young players with some veteran leadership. I think it was a really good offseason. And I think they're going to be, more of a 500 team this year. So I think I can see them being a few games over 500.
It's going to be a while, Nats fans, for me to tell you. I'm very curious. Now, that's going to be our biggest one. The only hint I'll give, if I was a Nats season ticket holders, I would not renew. That's how bad this offseason was for me. Okay. I'm out of giving out Bs now. Actually, hold on. No, I'm not. I was one away. Pages stick together. I have one more B to give out for my 7th ranked team, and they are the Toronto Blue Jays. I have a B. It was a confusing offseason openly. My dad had some of the most unrealistic expectations. He had like 7 free agent signings going to Toronto. We should be in Toronto at some point in 2025 seeing a new stadium. So hopefully we'll be seeing some of these names. I think they addressed their needs of the offseason. I really wish they would have extended Bo and Vladdy. I don't think they tried hard enough, and I actually don't think either will be a Blue Jay in 2026.
Traded the deadline.
Ooh, we'll see. I think they could, very similar to Ohtani, where the Angels added to say, like, hey, it's our one last-ditch effort. We're going to try to make the playoffs. Remember how good the playoffs were in Toronto? Vladdy, please stay with us. They would have to be significantly below 500 at the deadline for them to trade those two pieces. I don't think it happens. I like the Santander signing. It bolstered their offense. It literally gives Vladdy more opportunities to hit rather than be walked. I think the Hoffman deal was great if there's no physical issues. He was rejected by 2 teams due to a failed physical. So who knows? There's better healthcare in Canada. I don't know what was seen in America. I think that plays a factor.
That was a great one.
They traded for Andres Jimenez. I thought that was a fantastic trade. His contract looks good in 2025. It looks bad as it gets, older. I think he'll move to shortstop after Bo leaves, but I really like that trade. In that trade, eventually they traded away Spencer Horwitz, which was like their possible first baseman, third baseman. So this was also, I think, showing Vlad faith. We're not trying to replace you at your position. We do want to sign you. I don't think it works out for them still, but I do like the intention that, hey, we're going to try to extend people. We are going to bring in a better bullpen. No more Jordan Romano. We're going to bring in Hoffman. We're going to bring in an offensive power bat, Anthony Santander. We're going to improve defensively in the infield. We're going to bring in Andres Jimenez. I thought they really had a better incoming. Again, my positives are they better their team. They had a positive net. Could have done maybe a little more. I would have given them an A if they extended either of those homegrown people. But I'm okay giving them a B and my 8th best offseason grade.
And defensively they're going to be much better. You got Miles Straw in there as well. So defensively they're much better than they were last year. They might sneak up on some people. And with the other two teams in that division...
You just said they're trading away people. Blue Jays fans, remember this when he's in Toronto.
I'm just saying, if they're in the mix in midseason...
Yeah, but you could say that to anyone. You said they're going to trade people.
Well...
And I countered with a debate that I think they will be pushing nearly regardless. They would have to be 5th in the East to trade.
I'm just saying that defensively they'll be much better. And I'll stop there.
Okay. Dad, I don't know if you're at your 8th or your 9th overall. I think your 7th. Your 7th might have been the Nats, actually. I think that was my note. So who was your 8th? Yeah, who was your 8th best offseason?
Rangers.
Okay. So we're not too far off there.
Nope.
So what grade did you give them?
Rangers got a C+, I believe. C+.
We're both out of B's now, okay?
Yep, both out of B's. I guess some C+ is coming. Again, I think, their offseason really helped the bullpen. I think they added like 5 guys to the bullpen. They lost a lot of folks, but the people they got, either had Texas connections or they, wanted to play. Don't forget, they're a year away from being in the World Series, and what they did was strengthen their team in increments, and they're waiting for some health to come back on that team. So I think, again, they filled the holes. I think the catcher they got is going to be a big addition. Hayasaki? Kyle.
Oh, Higgy.
Yeah. Okay. He'll be a huge addition. He was the best catcher on the market, by the way. And that will add to their offense. And I think he had like 17 home runs last year. But again, that adds a little power. And a bullpen, I think, is just great with the additions of the Webb, Milner, Martin, those are just great additions. And Nathan Eovaldi, he's always been a clutch player and pitcher. I think they had a strong offseason.
Okay. I am to my numero 9. God, we're not even in the top 10 and we're 30 plus minutes in. Our listeners are either loving this or they're hating it. Dad, I am also out of B's. So with that, I think this will be, it's intentionally controversial, but my only C plus and my number 9 is the Oakland Athletics.
They did have it was a fun offseason for them.
So it's a fun offseason. I already know what you're saying at home. You're saying they had to or they lose their collective money, right? They would lose their revenue sharing money. Correct. But they still were able to bring quality names to a minor league stadium. The Rays, outside maybe one person, were not. And they both will be in minor league stadiums in 2025. Severino decided to be in Oakland for a couple years. Jose Leclerc decided to leave a championship team and be in Oakland for a couple of years. I don't know if that was a 1 year or 2 year contract.
1 year.
I love the extension of Brent Rooker give that to Mason Miller too. Or I think they actually did that to Miller too. So it's just a matter of we're not trying to trade every talented piece that comes here. There's a sign of hope that we're trying, not to the city of Oakland, but to the ball club, there's hope. I like the trade for Springs too. He used to be a Red Sox, didn't really do much there, and then Tampa Bay figured him out. So, we're going to try Jeffrey Springs in Oakland. it really was the first sign of progress after a rebuild. It wasn't this continual, let's just trade our next wave of talent. They're keeping people. They're building a team. They will not be in the playoffs in 2025. But judging what we're supposed to, judging on the offseason alone, they had a passing grade. They deserve a C+. If my lovely colleague here says a C, I get that. I want to give some of the teams that clearly operated within their means or even kind of above average. I think this was the largest contract with Severino the A's ever gave out. So at least to a pitcher. So yeah, I was impressed by the Athletics. That was my number 9 team.
Yeah, very good. Very good, very good.
Dad, who would be your 9 or possibly another C+?
I have another C+ for you, and that is Detroit Tigers.
Okay.
I think adding in the last week, some of my decisions were made on within the last 14 days of additions. But getting Chafin for the bullpen was a nice one. Flaherty and Torres are the 2 big ones. Torres is going to help that club tremendously. Flaherty will probably be their ace. If he's healthy, what a great addition he is. So I think as a club, you're looking at, they didn't do a great deal, but what they got was really good additions to the team to fill it out in a probably pretty competitive division. So I like what the Tigers did with their key additions. So I think they're going to be much better this year with all those young guys got a year under the belts. I think they're a formidable team, and I like what they did in the offseason.
We're really starting to split because you know how we were like ping ponging, like it was the Red Sox and the Mets and the Cubs, and we're always like mirroring each other. Now we're like, all right, I'm gonna move on to my number 10 team, my first C+, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. So Phillies fans, you might be biased. I understand. I think a C again. C's a passing grade. We're getting C's to get degrees. C's get the seal of approval of your offseason. There was too much trade rumors of Bohm, even a little bit of Castellanos, and maybe what you could get for Taijuan Walker. Because salary was this clear need that we needed to get rid of some of the salary to be able to bring in other people. You traded none of those guys. They're all getting paid even more than they got paid in 2024. And you brought in some people, sure, but that you are going to have to keep paying. So your luxury tax threshold, if you ever want to reset that, you're going to have to cut a big, big name. Like, if you're trying to go after, I don't know when Wheeler's contract's up. I think it's either next year or the year after. If you're trying to re-sign Wheeler, you're going to have to cut Bohm, Walker, and Castellanos. Like, trade them, get rid of, like, all in one offseason, and that's challenging.
Top heavy.
It is getting a little too top heavy to be super competitive. With that said, like the Yankees, I think you'll be in the playoffs in 2025. I thought the trade for Jesus Luzardo was really great. The Max Kepler signing could be good, right? It's an improvement defensively in your pretty bad defensive outfield. Getting Jordan Romano, Joe Ross, I thought they were very not moving the needle type of transactions, kind of like what a C paper would be. Hey, you did write about some stuff, but you didn't really have a thesis statement. You did do some research, you did do some work, but it wasn't a compelling argument. So that's kind of how I look at the Phillies, that they have a great team. They didn't necessarily need to do 8 additions like the Boston Red Sox to get a high grade, but they definitely needed to do more than what they did in order to get probably in the B range. So yeah, they're my 10th team. Average offseason. I like the Luzardo signing. I think I would have liked a trade of salary relief to have come.
I bet they trade. With that GM, I bet they trade a whole bunch of different ways that just didn't land.
They did make one trade. I just thought they would have made more.
Yeah.
Dev, that was my top 10. What is your top 10? What is your last of top 10?
Cincinnati Reds.
Hey, they're going to be my next team. Okay, so they're your 10th team. Do they get a C?
They do get a C. I love the trades they made. I think Gavin Lux is going to be a big addition. Brady Singer is going to be a big addition. I really like the addition of Austin Hayes. If he is healthy, he's a great addition to Cincinnati, and he has a shorter left field porch that hit some home runs. I think those three were great additions. Got Nick Martinez back and everything else. The additions they made weren't voluminous, but at the same time, quality trades and a few free agent additions. But I think their trades really helped them a great deal. So I think they're a team to watch.
I have the Reds as a C as well. 11th best team for me. I said they're a C because they added on to their strengths but didn't really improve their weaknesses. So they have a really good rotation. Early on, Martinez did accept the qualifying offer. Really, no one talks about that sort of move of getting Nick Martinez to stay. And then obviously bringing in Brady Singer for Jonathan India. Kind of a tough thing. I mean, so their rotation's strong. Bringing in Hayes sort of as that fourth outfielder, seeing what happens there. Maybe he starts, maybe he doesn't. I like Rogers for the bullpen. I thought that was a really great trade that I don't know why San Francisco let him go. So I like the Rogers brothers being in San Francisco, and now it's, one's in San Francisco, one's in Cincinnati. So again, I think they improved what was already a good rotation. I think getting Lux and India trade kind of net the same there. I think they improved on the bullpen, but I wish they would have probably done a little bit more offensively, especially, I don't know what Noelvi Marte is going to be after his steroid thing, so I don't know if Matt McClain will be fully healthy. I don't know necessarily who's starting at first base. Ellie De La Cruz is at short. I think they could have bolstered a better somebody. Is it Candelario playing first? Is he playing third? Is he a DH? I think they have a lot of moving pieces, and maybe that's how they like to do it in Cincinnati. If you added Pete Alonso to that lineup in that ballpark, I mean,
40 home runs.
Him and Ellie De La Cruz in the same lineup, you're looking at a Reds playoff team. So I just think they missed a couple opportunities. They didn't fail, but they could have done better. Do you want to go with 11?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do the California Anaheim Angels.
None of those names are right anymore.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I was just making sure you pay attention.
They were at home. So your Angels are what?
I think I'm up to...
Are you... No, letter grade. This is your 11th.
Oh, C. Sorry about that. They were the first ones out of the block in the offseason.
They were. They always are.
Yeah. So I like the additions they made. Kenley Jensen being a closer, if he has anything, he's back on the West Coast. So whatever he has left is going to be a big addition. Jorge Soler might be huge. Kikuchi might be another nice thing. Travis D'Arnaud being their catcher. And then Makata is now their third baseman. So just with those 5 players, they've really enhanced their lineup. So if Mike Trout is healthy, Angels will win more games than last year. But right now, I think what they did was great. I mean, they I think they signed 4 guys in November. And then, added a couple lately. But they had a pretty strong offseason. So I think it's impressive. I think they moved up the ranks a little bit.
Angels are a C for me, too. They're not my next team, but I will get to them, and I won't spend too much time on the Angels. My next C team are the Guardians. Now, the Guardians it's a hard grade. It's a weird thing. The Guardians basically had a plan, and they did a different assignment. However, that assignment was good. It's just that, what do you do with that?
Not what you asked for.
Right, it's not exactly what I asked for. It's different. So I gave them a C. I don't think they improved their team. They were active, but not impressive. So again, it's like if you asked for a 3-page assignment, they turned you in 7, but it wasn't concise or about the topic you asked for. They were way more active than Cleveland normally is in the off-seasons. They traded away 2 stars. I think Jimenez is that all-star. Naylor maybe is a lowercase all-star, but he's fun. They replaced Naylor with Santana. Defensively, yes. Offensively, I don't know. And energy-wise, definitely more calm. They got rid of Morgan and Straw as well, kind of like semi-long-timers. However, they just added a ton of pitching. No one, I don't know how many people cleared 100 innings for Cleveland last year, but with Bieber, Means, and Junis all being signed and being all past histories of injuries, they still have they bolstered the rotation. It was just in a weird way where they could have signed a healthier arm, but let's sign 3 unhealthy arms and hope 1.5 click.
That's a good point.
Paul Sewald, betters and a phenomenal bullpen. Like Eli Morgan or Paul Sewald, very even for me. I might give the nod a little bit to Paul Sewald. So they just keep to sign pitchers with problems, but again, huge upside. So it's one of these things where you don't want to fail this team because they're going to remember that you failed them in 9th grade and they're out writing the World Series checks. I don't think they have that much of that ceiling, but this was like, it was the C is curious. It's like, I'm curious to see how these work out. They did do some things I wouldn't have done, but Cleveland operates a little differently, and they're trying something. So I'm curious to see if it works out. They were my 11th team, I think, 12th team, one of the two. I think they were my 12th overall team.
You know what? I'm going to piggyback. My next team is the Guardians.
Oh, okay. Which I think is also your 12th team.
Yes. Great points. I read an article recently that Cleveland wanted to reduce their payroll, which I'm like...
Well, that's Jimenez.
Right, but I'm just saying their payroll wasn't that large to begin with.
No, they're a poor team.
Yeah, so anyway, you said so much, and it's quality stuff you're using, but I like the signing of John Means. Mm-hmm. Once he gets healthy, and going through a second Tommy John, if he's anywhere near what he was his rookie year with the Orioles, what a great addition. So hopefully he's back, July, August, whatever. But a nice addition. He's thrown a no-hitter. I just think that, to me, that might be the signing that has the most upside. Right. So I like what they did with that.
Right. It's a curious see. That new team, that hasn't been said by either of us yet, for number 13 on my list, are the Kansas City Royals. There were a lot of this AL Central is going to be in this kind of range for me. They're a C because they should have done more. Specifically, they should have spent more money. When you think of the AL Central, who has money, I always think it's the Kansas City Mob. Like, I always think it's this team that has the most recent World Series win out of anyone in the Central. A decade ago, they were dominant they didn't have the best roster, but they still won a World Series. And they still have money to spend, and they really should consistently be building around Bobby Witt and not letting Sal Perez just kind of age and retire. I mean, he's still relatively young, but he doesn't have that many more seasons left, especially at catcher. They didn't bring in any free agent additions. I would have given this team probably an A if they signed Santander or Alonso and moved Pasquantino to DH. I don't know. There's a lot of options. Trading for Jonathan India, I don't think is this power bat that their expectation was this offseason. They traded a pitcher, a back-end starter for him. They re-signed Lorenzen, so their rotation didn't get worse. They extended some of their starters, Wacha and Reagans. That was smart. They signed Esteves to their kind of like their closer. He might be a setup guy. We'll see where Urseg ends up. That offense didn't get better. That offense still is able to be pitched around, in my opinion, where I hate Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez. I'll pitch around, and sure, I'll see what happens to Pasquantino and India, and maybe Hunter Renfroe, gets better. But they're a C. They did a couple things, but they didn't dramatically improve their team.
My next team, Kansas City Royals. It's amazing, isn't it?
A lot of C's being given out.
Yeah. On a curve, baby. That's how I used to grade. But again, you make very, very valid points. I think Esteves is probably one of the key signings. I think Cincinnati got a better part of that deal of the India Singer trade. So I think Singer, I think he's going to do well in Cincinnati. It's just a smaller ballpark. I think the Royals, like the Guardians, kind of like bank figuratively on their younger players getting better. So as all these young guys come up, they're saying, hey, I don't have a lot of money invested in these guys. What I can do is, hope they get better and our team gets better. That's a big gamble, but I think with a lot of these teams, this offseason has been the young guys are getting better, wait and see kind of philosophy instead of adding to the payroll. So I think a lot of people got skittish this offseason on spending money. So there was like 6 teams that spent some money. The rest kind of like held on to their wallets.
A lot of the Central did.
Yeah.
A lot of the Central did. Dad, my next team is the Angels. So we were just, again, very shuffling around these C's. I won't say too much more. The Angels are a C because, short answer, they had a good offseason. They didn't lose much, but they added plenty. So obviously all those additions net positive. However, they need to do more. They're not doing enough to be competitive with the Rangers, the Astros, or get their pitching to where the Seattle Mariners are. So it's like, yeah, they added all those names you mentioned. I don't know if you said Kikuchi and Hendricks too. None of these signings or trades were exciting. Nothing is like, holy shit, Mike Trout's now got a bopping buddy. Like, not even Jorge Soler. Like, oh, so Jorge Soler maybe gets in front of Trout and strikes out, and Trout doesn't get the RBIs. Or Trout gets on second, and then Jorge Soler's after him, and he strikes out. Darno, Moncado, they're not going to... I'm pitching to those guys. I'm pitching to those guys. Darno also, I think, can teach O'Hoppe, and I hope O'Hoppe gets more starts than Travis does at catcher, because I think there is some youth there. But they should do more. I'd rather go to a Dodgers game. I'd rather put money on the Astros or the Rangers win the division. It's just, they're not a sexy team. And they have the worst farm system in baseball. They don't have anyone to look forward to. And again, we'll keep saying that trading for Trout allows you to reset your team, go a different direction, and stop just saying, another year of Mike Trout, another year without the playoffs, but come see one of the greatest outfielders ever.
What do you think of his move to right field?
It's sad. It's just like, oh, I guess he's getting older like me. It's a little sad. We're the same age. Dad, your next team, are you still in the C's?
I am. I think this might be my last C or second to last thing.
I have 2 C left.
Okay, I got the Phillies.
Okay, so again, we're just swapping Phillies and Angels.
Yep. I have one more C after this. But again, you made really great points. Made great points the whole podcast. But again, Phillies could have done a lot more. They're one of the big, large market teams. They have the money. They've been to the playoffs the last couple of years. I don't know why they didn't spend more money. And again, I know the payroll is pretty much maxed out. And your point about trying to get rid of some of the folks just didn't happen. But just even on the fringe, they didn't do much. Max Kepler is kind of like their big addition on offense. Maybe in that ballpark, he's okay. He was okay with Minnesota. We'll see what he does in Philly. But I just think that, Luzardo has that injury background and all that. That's a big gamble they took. But again, they just didn't do a volume of additions. So the team you saw last year is the team you're kind of see this year.
Yep. For our people at home, we're almost at an hour on this podcast. And if you haven't heard your team yet, we only have a C left and 2 C's left. It's going to be failing grades kind of after that hour mark.
Yeah.
My next team...
Didn't do their homework.
My next team, Dad, are the Tampa Bay Rays. They're a C for me. This was tough. This was almost like, do I give them a D plus or a C? I went with a C because I think they continue to do bargain bin shopping. They continue to do Rays behavior. However, sometimes you get these great deals in that bargain bin. And with getting Ha-Seong Kim and Eloy Jimenez, as well as Danny Jansen, I was impressed with those 3 signings. Eloy, if he makes a team as a minor league contract, if he gets a major league call, he should. He has 80 games in a minor league park to hit home runs. Yeah. We saw him in minor league parks. He thrives there. If he can stay healthy, he might hit 40 home runs this year. It's not impossible.
And Myrtle Beach is not a hitter's park.
The earlier Kim comes back, the better the signing looks. The later he comes back, the worse it looks. That's where this could go from a C plus to a D plus in retrospect. Danny Jansen I liked last year. I've always wondered who is the Rays catcher. In any given year, who was the Rays catcher. The only thing I didn't like is that they had traded Springs, but they're getting so many of their starters back from injury. They still have some of the best rotations in baseball. And if obviously all those things click, they could still be the Tampa Bay Rays, and we're only a couple years removed from like a 99-win Rays team or something like that. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. The Rays offseason, though, I think was worth a C. Yeah. Dad, your final C. I have one more after this.
I have a C- to the Atlanta Braves.
Okay. C-. I didn't say anything about minuses, people. It's only 5 pluses, but we'll let it happen because I didn't even use
It's a C.
No, okay.
It's a C with Atlanta. Profar, big addition. But again, they're hoping that the guys who got hurt come back healthy. But, if you think about the Braves offseason, they could have done more. I think they got skittish on, pulling trigger on a few things. But, Acuna coming back, you hope he's healthy and everything else. But they're waiting for a lot of guys to come back and be what they were 2 years ago. We'll see what happens. With that division, I would think the Braves would have done more.
We'll get to those Braves shortly. My final C is the San Francisco Giants. Reason they're a C is they truly did sign 2 big names, but that's it. They signed Justin Verlander probably in his last year, and they signed Willy Adames to a really big contract, and after the Brandon Crawford years, they have a shortstop. However, that's it. They lost Snell to their rival. They lost Conforto to their rival. Dodgers snagged both those guys. Trading the Rogers brothers, I think, kind of makes that chemistry of the clubhouse a little weirder. Not that Estrada or Canha were difference makers, but they're also gone. But they lost out. It seems every year the Blue Jays or the San Francisco Giants are losing out on Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa, Shohei Ohtani. And they lost out on Roki Sasaki and Pete Alonso. So, 2 great names, 2 great improvements. They have many Cy Young, like they have Robbie Ray. They have Justin Verlander. They have a lot of former Cy Youngers in that rotation. It's scary, especially if those guys can stay healthy and click. Logan Webb has always deserved a Cy Young. So they bettered their team, but they also lost out on some massive improvements. I think if they added Pete, they probably would have been a B+ for me.
Yeah, I think they finished the bridesmaid.
Bridesmaid.
For a lot of decisions this year. And I don't know if it's the city or, you keep reading about the people that want to go there for a lot of different reasons. Cost of living is astronomical there. So a lot of people kind of shy away from San Francisco that normally would entertain other cities. So I think maybe, and it's a beautiful ballpark. We haven't been there yet. But I think for the most part, they're just not getting the candidates to land there.
From here on, I believe we're both in the D's and F's category. These are the grades that don't go in the fridge, people. So
no magnet allowed.
I hope that what we say is like a nice echo of what your fandom also agrees with. We could also be saying some words that greatly upset you. Feel free to use the comment box and let us know why we're wrong. But please do hear our perspectives. We're an hour into this. We're probably going to go maybe 45 more minutes. So we did put a lot of effort into this. So with that said, Dad, who is your first D team?
Athletics.
Okay. I don't hate that. They'll net a C. That's
Sacramento
okay.
Athletics.
Yeah, whatever city. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me why they weren't a C+. Why are they not on the fridge?
You know what? I think I love the effort. I really did. I think you got to give them credit for, building the team. And again, your statement about they were under the gun a little bit for Major League Baseball to improve their team. But what they got was some good players. Severino, Leclerc, Springs. I think they're all pretty good players. So I think the Athletics will be much better this year. I think the 2 things that I look for is what you said, they retained a couple of their key players, and they have a real good farm system coming up as well, being that they have drafted, so low or so high for so long. I think they're going to be up and coming team. So it's a team to watch for next year, and kudos for them to improve their team. So they just didn't do enough. You look at the other teams, there's no really sexy additions, but they're solid additions.
Okay. My C+, his D, they'll net a C. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But getting back to the grade thing, this is a team that has perennially failed. right? Imagine having a kid that just failed their math test for like 8 years straight, and they finally brought home a C plus or even a D. You might still put it on the fridge. So this is one of their best off seasons.
They went to remedial math.
Sure. They said if you don't get a C on this thing, you're gonna get failed out, and you're not gonna get any money. My first D, just like my first C plus, is gonna be controversial. Please stay with me. The Chicago White Sox are a D, not an F. Reason being is they have a clear direction. Unlike a team that I'll talk about later, like the St. Louis Cardinals, you know what you're in for the next couple of years as a fan. Getting rid of Crochet and inevitably will be Robert, you know that you're rebuilding. They got a great package for Crochet. They didn't trade him for nothing. It wasn't the Nolan Arenado Rockies trade from, 5 years ago? Any of these signings that click, I'm going to run through them. Joey Gallo, Michael Taylor, Brandon Drury, Clevenger, which is now going to be a bullpen piece, Perez, Rojas, or even Mike Tauchman. Any of those guys click, they're going to get traded mid-year, and they're going to net your team more prospects. That's a rebuild. Every signing that they did, hope, click, and flip. I think good. That's a D. Like, it's not an F. It's a direction. It's not that they said, we're not going to sign anybody. We'll let the kids play, and we have no one to trade. These names are going to get traded or cut, honestly. And the White Sox do have enough money to cut some people. And, hey, we took $1 million chance on Joey Gallo. He didn't get a hit all spring training. Cut him, whatever. But some of those players are going to click. Brandon Drury still has some value. He was like a trade candidate a couple years ago. So I think a D. I was not willing to give them an F. I wasn't willing to give them a D+. I think that's a weird grade. But the White Sox are a D for me.
A lot of players sign with them for playing time. So
sure.
if you look at who they signed, they're saying, "Hey, I was the fourth outfielder. I was on the bench as a utility infielder. Now with the White Sox, I can play, so I can better myself going forward." So yeah, I agree with you with that.
Dad, you're next.
Astros got a D.
Okay.
It's if you look at their lineup, I'm not sure how many runs they're going to score. Throughout the year, they lost 2 huge pieces of their lineup. Again, it's a payroll thing, and that's a shame. Christian Walker is probably the biggest addition to the offseason. They wanted to improve their farm system. They did that through some additions of the trades. Brendan Rodgers was a minor league signing. Can you imagine that? He was a first-round draft choice not that long ago.
I think he makes the team.
Oh, he has to. He's going to be probably the second baseman. But again, when I saw that, I was like, wow. I mean, he was going to be one of their stars. But again, they just didn't add a lot of people. That's a cap. That didn't lose a lot of people. Walker was a big addition. Paredes, I'm not sure how well he's going to do, but they say that ballpark is kind of meant for him because he's such a pull hitter. So we'll see. But the Astros lost more than they gained.
I will be getting to the Astros soon as well. We're going to agree in the grade, Astros fans, but they're just a little lower up in the D group. Dad, my next D stands for Detroit. The Detroit Tigers are a D. So I guess they, by sort of just like the athletic mindset, they'll average out to a C. They should have done more. They had this crazy end of the season energy. They made the playoffs, last or second to last game. They really should have signed Bregman. They really should have. It was a really easy offseason for them. They have a lot of youthful talent. They should have signed a big-name pitcher and a big-name player, big-name offensive player. That could have been Bregman and Flaherty. I don't even like the Flaherty deal because he can opt out just after this year. He could be traded mid-season again. There wasn't this commitment to the future, and I think they're still scared from the Javi Baez. They're still hurt by it, or the Miguel Cabrera. I mean, even though he's a Hall of Famer, that big old contract, they're kind of unwilling to give out the big money. They're big power bats, Gleyber Torres. I'm not buying it. By that default, he is a power hitting second baseman. If you put him at first base, he's an average first baseman. If you put him at right field, he's probably a below average kind of hitter, So they did improve the bullpen. I thought that already was a strength, but they really didn't improve the offense enough. The whole division kind of sucked for me. Again, I think the highest grade I gave anyone was a C. Any Tigers, Twins too, but they weren't spending money. But the Tigers, Royals, or the Guardians, 3-4 additions, they would lock up first place. And they just all missed that opportunity. So the Tigers are a D.
I got the White Sox as a D.
Hey, look at that.
You know what? I concur with all the things you said. They tried. The people they added were pretty. If you think about the White Sox, they're going to have a decent outfield. I really like Austin Slater. I thought he did well. He'll be a starter. Tauchman, again, was good for the Cubs. He'll be their starting center fielder or right fielder. He's going to get a lot of at-bats. They added some things to make them better, so there won't be just a bunch of AAA players. Michael A. Taylor is on that team. So I think, again, you got to give them, a decent grade for the effort. It's just, I think, again, when they're, 30 games below 500 at the trading deadline, people are going to roll out of there. But again, at least it's investments for the future. So if it was a banker, they make great investments.
Sure. My next D, and I only have. Well, I have a couple. I have enough. I thought I was getting down to it. I think I have like 5 Ds left. My next D is the Braves. So just a little shy. They'll end up like the C- people at home. They didn't do enough. Sure, they added Profar. They also added Nick Allen, sort of like as a backup middle infielder. I know they have a great team, and again, just kind of like the Phillies, they will be a playoff team. They lost a lot, though, and they really just think that their youth will kind of fill the gaps, and I think that's kind of why I gave them such a low grade. They got rid of Soler. You knew that was going to happen. He was just a temporary solution. Acuna injured. Let's bring in a bat to help with Ozuna. I'm not saying Soler's a negative, but no more Max Fried, no more Charlie Morton, and you're hoping some of those young pitchers click and stay healthy. I love Spencer Strider, but I don't know if he hits 200 innings again. Losing Travis d'Arnaud, I think, is both as a backup catcher role, but also just as a clubhouse guy, is going to be tough. And I think they lost a lot of bench. So they didn't add really anyone of value outside Profar, which also means they're giving up on Kelenic as a starting left fielder. So they're a D, and by our ratio, they'll average out to like a C-.
Yeah. That's a team of hope.
It's still a great team. It's just that do more.
Yeah, a lot of people have them winning a lot of games this year. So all the people that are predicting records, they have him. They're winning the division. So we'll see what happens. It's all about health.
Mm-hmm.
My next team is the Giants.
Hey, okay, they're a D.
Yes.
C- team.
Yeah, I think getting Willie is a nice addition. He was very good with the Braves. And if Verlander has anything that helps.
Brewers? Willie Adames?
Yes.
Oh, you said Braves.
I said Willie.
I know, you said Braves.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Brewers. My bad.
It's okay. I think it just threw me off for a second. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. But yeah, Verlander, if he has anything, 150 innings, it's going to be great. Plus, he adds a nice leadership to that Giants. So he may end up being a 4 or 5, but just to have him in the dugout, talking to the younger players, we hope Giants do well. But man, in that division, it's a tough uphill climb for the Giants. So yeah, so that's Giants.
My next D, and I can tell we're not getting excited about these. Depending how you view D's in your own household. Brewers are a D. I think you've seen me on this podcast. I took a big over on them last year. I thought they were totally, they were going to win the Central. They did. That over-under DraftKings lines, I thought that was, offensive, how low it was on the Brewers. This year, it's like, okay, what else are they going to do? They didn't replace Adames in any way, offensively or position-wise, really. I don't know if I like the Cortez for Williams swap. I think Devin is just a better pitcher, whether it's a starter or a reliever. It's just, but whatever. It's very similar, money too. And anyways,
what a hole to fill.
And this is what the Brewers do, and they have a lot of pitching in their minor leagues. They have a closer sort of in the offing that's getting. He had like blanking on his name, but his ERA in AAA last year was like under 1. So that's going to be a great closer, but it's just tough. The additions they made are like, I hope they make the team. And that's Canha, Durbin, which they got for the Williams trade, and Manny Margot.
Canha.
Can he make the team? I mean, yeah. Or will be he a laughingstock? And get cut. I just really think they should have done other moves. This would have been like a better grade, honestly, kind of relative to the Cubs if the Cubs didn't do anything. Because then no one really in that division did enough. But when the Cubs are driving and getting a trade after trade, and you're just going,
yeah,
we'll see him in June.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to kind of react accordingly. They'll still win games. I think they're still a playoff contender, but I'm now a little bit more doubtful than I was last year with the removal of some of those stars.
Williams especially.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like Adames, but yeah.
And don't forget Cortez, was an okay pitcher, but then he got hurt.
Yeah.
So he's a left-handed pitcher that at the end of the year was not great.
Sure.
So and Brewers are my next team, by the way.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, but but again, you make all the valid points that need to be made. I think the Brewers think they're always going to have that magic, that they're going to have a great team and surprise people. I think those days are coming to an end. I think they've made some bad moves, and again, some of the guys are getting older on that team. And I think they really have some holes they didn't fill very well. So I think the bullpen's going to be weaker and the infield's going to be weaker.
I think Cubs fan right there is a little optimistic too.
I have to be.
Dad, I have...
This is their year.
I have 3 Ds left. 1 is a team you've already given a D. 2 have not been talked about yet.
Okay.
How my ranking goes is going to go Pirates next. Pirates are D because they should have done more. This was the first season of Hope, Skeens, Rookie of the Year, Skeens. Bubba Chandler coming up. Jarrett Jones. You also have O'Neal Cruz. You still have Brian Reynolds. You have a core. You got to build around the core, and you didn't. They added what I would assume people like the White Sox would have added. Like trade chips. And all of them were 1-year contracts. That's also what really bugs me, and we'll get to other teams that just did 1-year contracts where they should have done more. Pham, Heaney, Frazier, Meza, and McCutchen all are 1-year contracts. That shows no faith in this team, and it doesn't give the fans hope that which of these jerseys can I buy? I know they're going to buy McCutchen jerseys. They already have them. But do I get a Tommy Pham jersey when he's going to be traded July? Or Andrew Heaney when he's traded? I didn't like the trade they did for Horwitz, and then immediately he gets injured. And then apparently they knew about his injury, so they got rid of a decent young pitcher in Luis Ortiz.
Yeah.
I guess Bubba Chandler replaces him. I don't like that net in, net out so much. And I also don't like using O'Neal Cruz as an outfielder. I like having 6'7" guy as a shortstop.
Yeah, it can cover a lot of ground.
Seems to work out for the other Cruz in Cincinnati, who's I think 6'5".
Yeah. Cal Ripken's 6'5".
So, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But anyways, Pirates are D. Not an F. They did do some. They didn't fail the offseason, but they're right above it. They're right on that cusp of not signing Heaney. They would have been an F. That kind of close. Who's your next team, Dad?
Pirates.
We're just echo chambers over here.
Yeah. Again, you make really, really good points. I didn't understand the Horwitz deal at all. He was an okay player for the Blue Jays. He's from Baltimore, by the way.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. But again, I'm like, I don't think he's going to hit that well in PNC. He's kind of like a gap-to-gap kind of guy. Again, I look at the Pirates and going, where's the power? And again, a lot of these guys are going to get traded at the deadline. So again, they just spin their wheels. The Pirates, climb up in the beginning of the season and then fall down mid-season and below. And then all of a sudden they make a couple little moves. They come out of the gate really well and then slide down. They just never get over that hump, and they just don't invest money. And I think it's ownership and it's money and all that stuff. But again, they have a very low payroll. And every time they get a good player, they don't extend them and everything else. So, yeah, Pirates are disappointing, and I think people in Pittsburgh would love to have a team that goes up in the division and stays on the upper tier. They just don't do that.
Dad, I have the Astros as a D as my next team. You have them as a D as well.
Yep.
They're just on that near bottom rung. I'm more upset with them than you are. Simply put, they made their team worse. I would even argue far worse. Their goal, though, was to sidestep the luxury tax for 1 year. So they did hit that goal. I hate when teams do that, but I understand for this exercise, that's what they want to do. I do think that the sidestep of 1 year is going to offset their team for multiple years. I think the sun is finally setting on the Houston Astros. They lost Bregman, Verlander, Kikuchi, Graveman, and Neris. That was just on free agency. Let's double down. Let's trade Kyle Tucker and Ryan Presley.
Yeah, I think Presley was a steal for the Cubs.
And let's go get a guy in that package that no one in Houston is going to know how to spell because there's no Polish people in Houston. So when Wisniewski is just they got all the Hispanic names right. They're going to get those. They are going to butcher that guy's name every time he comes on the mound. Paredes, they'll nail that out of the park. But Wisniewski, they're going to stumble over and over again, and it's going to be fun. They added Christian Walker. Good addition. I think Brendan Rodgers does make the team. I think they're clearly still hurting, just like the Tigers. They're hurting from the Abreu deal. They're still paying that guy to sit in Cuba somewhere and have a cigar. They just didn't do enough, and they're almost at an F for me. I don't like that they traded both Tucker and Presley in separate deals to the same club.
At one point, that was going to be a package deal, by the way.
It was just an upsetting offseason, and they didn't make their team better. They only achieved one goal, and they sacrificed a lot to achieve that one goal.
It was all about, getting to that little limit that people are so afraid to go over. But there's so many teams that don't want to pay the luxury tax and everything else that, the teams that want to win go above the luxury tax and they figure it out later. And I don't know if you notice that, but the teams that want to go to World Series, like, all right, we'll pay the luxury tax, but as long as we're in a World Series. Other teams are like, they get so frightened. So I think there's a lot of people this year, there's distinct winners and losers. And again, it's all about these people that stay status quo or went downhill. So, yeah.
Astros and Brewers have a lot in common, in my opinion, because their rivals, the Rangers for the Astros, got significantly better, and they just went, good job, man.
I know.
And no, be competitive.
Yeah.
Dad, I have one D left. Do you have any Ds left?
I got a couple of them. I have Tampa Bay.
Okay, you can do Tampa Bay next.
I think it's kind of fun what they do. They made so many trades last year that they're banking on all those trades and those guys coming up to trade with the Cubs and everything else. They got a plethora of young talent from all the trades. They're going to be coming into the Rays and everything else in their small ballpark. That could be a very young team. They may win more games than people think, but again, they're relying on some people. I think the key was Danny Jensen really helps the catching core. They haven't had a catcher in a long, long time.
Right. Hey, look, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, if he can, I'm sure he's going to hit in the minor league ballpark. But yeah, I think it's great. They added some left-handed pitchers the last couple of weeks, Alexander and Posh. And I just think it's a D, but Tampa Bay always gets a D in the offseason, and they do okay during the season just because of the youth, and they do such international scouting. They do that very well.
I'm surprised you have still more Ds to give out.
I think it's one.
Okay, I only have one as well. Oh, more local fans, just have a seat. I hope, I actually do believe this lands. The Orioles are a D. I would have been fine if you gave them an F, and I would have probably said the F has more weight. They blew the offseason.
Key offseason, by the way.
Key offseason. A lot of things available. I never thought they would re-sign Burns. I don't think really anyone in Baltimore did. I think there was hope of Santander. But let's let both go. And let's go get 1-year contracts. Let's just go get risk and old men. Tyler O'Neill was the only multi-year contract, but there is an opt-out. So that doesn't give me any sort of faith in this team either. Gary Sanchez, Dylan Carlson, Ramon Laureano, Charlie Morton, Andrew Kittredge, and the Sugano guy from Japan are all 1-year contracts. Kittredge, Sugano, Morton are all above 35. The rest are actually Dylan Carlson's under 30, but I think the rest are 30 and over. This also shows no faith in Kjerstad. You obviously like Mullins. You obviously like Kauser. And then it's just like, all right, so listen, Heston, we're going to go get you Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, and Ramon Laureano, even though we have several DH options. Enjoy your 25% playtime. They really have been promising the fans that they'll do stuff. This new owner said it's going to be a new chapter. It hasn't been. It's actually been kind of worse because when you're a fan and you don't have hope, you're not that mad. You just know, yep, Orioles suck. My team suck. Whatever. Gunnar, Jackson, Adley, especially Gunnar and Adley. If you didn't get any good names, why don't you just extend one of those guys this offseason? At least say, put your hang your hat on that. Say, hey, we just locked up Adley for 7 years, Gunnar for 8 years. I don't care. I don't care what the price is.
Westberg.
Well, sure. Yeah. Give Jordan Westberg. I know Jackson hasn't clicked yet. Whatever. That's why I said the first two. You lose out on Burns. You lose out on Santander. You lose out on Crochet. The Orioles could have made the same package to get Garrett Crochet, and they didn't. They lost out to a rival. Red Sox got significantly better. The Orioles got worse. Period. Who has the ball opening day? Okay. There's no ace. Who has the ball game 1 of a playoff series? They didn't try to trade for Cease. They didn't seem to make any pushes of value.
And they had the trade capital.
They just failed to sign and failed to bring in anyone of value. And it's really upsetting when they made intentions and promises to change the direction of the Orioles. And this offseason was, after 2 failed, horrible postseasons where they got swept both series, they haven't won a postseason game in over a decade. There's just no faith given out. So they are a D at maximum.
I'm with you 100%. And you know what the key in my mind was? Last 2 years, they made the playoffs, and they haven't hit a lick in the playoffs, and they lose their number 1 home run hitter, and they don't account for that. Mm-hmm. And they're right now, offensively, they really need a power hitter. Tyler O'Neill's not guaranteed to hit 25 home runs, whatever. Has a history of getting hurt and all that stuff. He's not the answer to Santander. So right now, their lineup took a huge hit when he left. And again, Burns is like, that was the guy they went to when you got in the playoffs and you needed a game to be won. He was the guy. They don't have that guy anymore. So I'm with you 100%. Sanchez is not a very good defensive catcher. And last year they did really pretty well because they took Adley and they had him DH a little bit. The rest, to put Sanchez behind the plate is a little knock on the defensive end of thing as catcher. So Adley's going to have to catch more. He's going to get more tired and everything. So right now that lineup and their bench is not good. I really wonder about their bench. So it's a borderline D, but I tell you it's disappointing. And you made a thing about at least the owner of the Orioles were interviewed in spring training, and they asked him about extensions. He goes, "Yeah, I've heard about that." That was his answer.
You know what to do. You have advisors like no.
Right. At least say I'm in talks with both of them or all 3 of them, whatever.
Yeah,
or one.
That's a no then. He hasn't talked to either one of them.
Correct.
I will say one thing about you said bench and Gary. Not having James McCann on this team will be a problem.
Oh, I agree.
James McCann offensively is replaceable, right? But tough guy. but number one tough guy on that team, not the biggest guy on the team, not the tallest guy on the team, not the strongest guy on the team. I think Felix Bautista is afraid of James McCann, right? Tyler O'Neill, Red Sox fandom here, Tyler O'Neill has a little bit of a personality thing. That's why the Cardinals didn't want him. Like, he has a chip on his shoulder. Tyler O'Neill is strong. If you've seen his arms, he has big guns. He's small, though. He's like 5'10". James McCann doesn't care how big your arms are.
He has some big arms.
I just think that there's going to be a clubhouse problem without that clear leader.
Very good point.
And it's the toughest guy is very rarely, I won't say never, because I'm sure like Randy Johnson will come up in people's minds, but a pitcher is never going to usually be that tough guy. Felix Bautista is going to be in the bullpen. He's not going to hear the jib jab in the dugout or anything like that. You need someone that's in there. I don't see this team. We'll get to our predictions for the season in a couple podcasts from now, but it's just there's no faith in this team, and there's not a lot of good direction.
I think they're going to have a hangover from the playoffs.
That was a short hangover then. Dad, I'm out of D's. Do you have any other D's?
I am done with D's. I'm in the F's.
So that means I think you either have 6 or 7 F's too? I forget where we are with the order. At least, okay. Yeah. I have 7 F's. My highest rated F is one of your B's, and that's the Nationals. I think that's our biggest difference. I forget what you gave the Blue Jays, but I will double check on that. I think the Nats is our biggest different perspectives.
I got him a C+.
You gave him a C+. Okay, thank you. I just probably missed that one. I got everything else down. Talking about the Nats. The Nats also, like the Pirates, have a core, their outfield, possibly Brady House, building. They have more money than the Pirates. They have a World Series that's 5-6 years old now. They had an opportunity to sign these big name players to support this core, and they didn't. They doubled down. Instead, they said, we're not ready for free agent spending. And I quote from the owner, there's no point in getting a superstar now. Let that sit. Zero faith. There's no point in getting a superstar now. Tell that to the Angels with Mike Trout. There's always a point of having a superstar on your team. Even if you're not making the playoffs, you have a reason for people to see this awesome former... He has twilight years, sure, whatever. David Justice, 2002 Oakland Athletics. Hey, at least this guy's a name. Fans get to come down early because they want to interact with, fill in the gap, have this person sign some stuff. I really thought a Max Scherzer reunion would have made sense at the beginning of the year kind of for that reason. I wanted them to get Pete Alonso because they needed that. They re-signed Josh Bell, made a reunion with him, and then traded really their only lasting piece in the bullpen at that time for Nate Lowe. Yeah, they recently got Finnegan back, but that Lopez had a good year with Chicago, Dad, but a horrible year with the Mets, and he was cut from the Mets. So a lot of these pickups, Dad, I said, you're going to sign guys you would find on waivers. Paul DeYoung has been on waivers. Josh Bell has been on waivers. Rosario has been on waivers. Lopez has been on waivers. I'm not sure about Mike Soroka, but he's been injured a lot with the Braves before he was a White Sox. All those guys either had been on waivers or could be on waivers this year. Ogasawara, I'm not sure how to say that other Japanese pitcher. Don't know if he's going to be a starter or a reliever. Lowe was a good addition, but again, I think that's like he's a B, maybe B- first baseman. Pete Alonso has that A potential. Plus, wouldn't you want Pete Alonso getting pitched around so your rookies can get more bats and get more looks, other than saying, well, these guys, this Dylan Cruz character, he's hitting the cover of the ball. Let me walk him so I can face Nate Lowe. Pete Alonso gives protection to those rookies.
Yeah.
It just, their bullpen looks really incomplete, even with the addition of Finnegan. They had money after Patrick Corbin's deal is finally off the books. They had money to bring in, and there's no point in getting a superstar now. Then there's no point in giving you a grade above an F. So that's why I think the Nats are an F. We obviously, that'll average out to like a C- or something. But yeah.
No, not a problem. My first, it's hard to rank these Fs because they're all so bad.
Yeah.
I think my first F is Seattle.
Okay. I have them as an F too, obviously.
Yeah. Just again, You just wonder what they're thinking. They want to compete in the West, which some teams are pretty good, and they've come so close in the last 3 years, and they seem to falter at the end. Why not pick up some folks along the way? But again, they sat on the sidelines and watch the other people, demonstrate. They're willing to invest in the team and get it better. But again, they really. Solano is probably their biggest pickup, and that's going to be their third baseman. But I think he's 34, 35. So, again, the first F is Seattle.
They were an F for me. They're upsetting. I'll get to them soon. My next F are the Twins. The Twins are just quickly becoming the cheapest franchise in baseball. They need a new owner. They need a direction. For those that have listened to us since 2019, I would pencil the Twins in the playoffs. I would say they're going to be in the World Series. I was a Twins fan. And how they've handled the past couple of years, and also going to their ballpark and just going, this kind of sucks.
The excitement wasn't there, was it?
No. They're cheap. They're not willing to spend money. I know you're struggling with that TV deal still. You have this core. The core obviously is older now. It's not like 22s like Pirates or the Orioles. But you have Correa, you have Lewis, you have Buxton. You have some injury history there. Build around them. Build something with it. You took I hope Ty France clicks for you at first base, but that's a hell of a drop-off if he doesn't from Carlos Santana. Bader as, I assume, what will be probably either center fielder or left fielder, depending what Buxton does.
Right.
I don't think their bullpen got better. Danny Colombe, it was a decent bullpen piece for the Orioles. He was a Twin at one point in his life. You lost Kepler. You lost Santana. That was a better duo than Bader and France. So, again, they were negative. There weren't any positive additions. My final note is sell the team. Give it to someone that will run it right.
And apparently they had somebody, and they backed off, and now they're wanted by the White Sox.
Because maybe the White Sox are closer to a direction than the Twins.
Yeah. And Chicago, major market.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
Yeah. But I'm with you. Twins, the next one. Same philosophy. They were on the verge of trading some people to build a farm system. At least do something other than sit still. Lopez was one of the guys that was on the block that could have brought 3 very good players back to the Twins. They're just afraid to pull the trigger on a lot of these deals and everything else. But they didn't even trade. So the Twins, again, I think they're going to be a 500 team. And again, they just sat there. And if it's a bargain type of player, okay, we'll look into it. And I know the ownership and TV and all that stuff, they don't know what the resources they're going to have. But do something. If you know this is going to be bleak for the next couple of years, make a trade, build your system up. Do something.
Before I move on to my next F, which is the Mariners, I forgot to say about C.J. Abrams for the Nats. Another reason it's an F is he was off the roster on MLB, on the Nats site all offseason. I don't know where he stands within the organization, within the team. That's just a clubhouse problem, possibly a gambling addiction problem. We'll see how deep that goes. I look for the Nats to trade for a shortstop. That's if they want to be competitive in the future. I don't think C.J. Abrams is your guy.
No.
He's also the worst defensive shortstop.
He's going to go the way that he's going to end up either at a AAA somewhere and then all of a sudden just be out of baseball and playing independent ball. I can see that happening. He just don't do what he did and admit to it, And apparently he probably wasn't a great teammate to begin with.
Mariners. Sorry, I didn't want to spend too much additional time on the Nats spelled with an F somehow. Mariners are an F dad because they're not logical. There's 2 teams in baseball that I really dislike. I used to really like the Mariners, Griffey, but their front office has just made me dislike the whole team. The Rockies are the other one, which will be another F. We'll get to that. The Mariners have 6 starters. Emerson Hancock, if you're not following along at home. But they won't trade any of them to improve the team.
Yeah.
So
even people trying to get at least one of them away from there.
You experimented with Castillo. He was in trade talks. Hancock not so much, but you wanted to get rid of the money. I imagine people would take Luis Castillo, Baltimore Orioles being one of them.
Yeah.
I assume they would have done it for Ryan Mountcastle because Kobe Mayo is in the offing. I would assume they would have done it for, I don't know, anyone they freaking just signed probably. But they decided to hang on to him for whatever reason. So they didn't improve the offense whatsoever. Signing Rowdy Tellez to a minor league contract, Solano and Polanco, they're not difference makers. They lost even more bench pieces from that. They lost bullpen pieces. What I really thought was the big reason for an F, they solved nothing. They still have the same problems they had in October or September as they do now. Still have 6 people. They still have a big rotation. They don't have an offense. They still have to play in the same big ballpark. They didn't do anything to address the issues of their team. So, they failed.
And you can see them cleaning house as time goes on.
I don't know. I just think they need a direction. They're still a quality pitching staff, right? I would say that rotation.
And they still have a star in their outfield.
Rosarina, don't forget too.
Yeah.
Julio and Rosarina.
Yeah.
But they need still more pieces.
I agree.
Dad, who's your next F?
You know what? They're so bad right now. I'm just picking them at will. I think they're all going to be bad from here on out. I'm going to go Padres. Talk about a team in disarray. Again, it's ownership. They were so bad this offseason when, again, they had an opportunity to at least try to compete with the Dodgers a little bit. Their left field platoon is going to be Connor Joe and Jason Hayward. And I'm like, that's your left field platoon? Oh, man. I guess the biggest name is Diaz as the catcher. But other than that, they did nothing until, I think, February.
Pivetta, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just, Pivetta, the last 2 weeks. But I look at that Padres and I'm going, the clubhouse has to be just not a happy place to be right now. I can see a lot of their stars not having a good year and want to get out of San Diego.
It's tough because that's another great ballpark with a great supported baseball town.
Yeah.
They're going to be an F for me too, San Diego, but second to last. They're the second to worst offseason.
Yeah.
Dad, my next is the Rockies. I wanted to go back to back with my I don't understand your front office. I said very, very nicely, the Rockies are an F because they're the Rockies. They did not improve the team. They're choosing to not rebuild. Openly don't think they're a loser. They won't add. They let Rogers grow to bring in Estrada. I think that's a negative. And they just let Quantrill go. He's a Marlin. No additions. No additions. There's nothing of note, of value. I don't know who's really playing all their outfield positions. I don't know who's playing right field, honestly. I don't know if I would reckon. I mean, Chris Bryant was just such a waste of a signing. I know that was multiple seasons ago. It's weird to me that they think their starters are great. All of them have above a 4 ERA. You could say stuff that's about Coors Field effect. I don't know. I don't understand this team, and they'll always be an F until they're not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the owners and the GM are just like, hey, people are going to come here because there's no competition around that area of the country. They're making money, but again, they got to put a product on the field. They refuse to do it. So I think my next F is the Marlins.
That's mine too.
Okay. Speaking of not doing much, when Matt Mervis is your headliner for the offseason is pretty bad. Again, down in South Florida, there's a lot of baseball fans, and they choose to be just one of the most lowest paid, payrolls there is in baseball. And you say to yourself, they got a fan base down there, but they choose just to be who they are, dismantle the team, years ago, and they've never recovered from that. So it's another sad franchise that, you hope you don't lose that down in South Florida.
Marlins are also not for me. The White Sox and the Marlins are in the same rebuild mode. I think the White Sox are actually doing it better. The Marlins are not bringing in really any top talent. They don't have a lot of super talented prospects coming. I know Kai Busch is injured this year for the White Sox, but they still have Montgomery as a shortstop. There's hope in 2027 for the White Sox. I don't see how the Marlins are any time above fifth. Braves, Mets.
I know.
I mean, the White Sox, you can make an argument. Hey, the Twins are starting to suck. The Guardians, the White Sox in theory have more money than the Guardians. We could outbuy them. There's hope for the White Sox, just not in the next couple of years. Yeah. The Marlins,
at least they're doing something.
Sandy Alcantara is going to be traded this year. It's just a matter of when. Luzardo didn't bring back, I don't think, that much, but let that, get clipped and let it be the greatest package ever, this future, all that stuff. They added Cal Quantrill, right? That was their big addition. They're just enough. They are like doing the rebuild wrong. I just don't think they're. Yeah, I don't know. It's deck's a little stacked against them, but they've had playoff teams, right? They've had successful talent.
Yeah.
But they don't stay long.
Lack of leadership.
I guess. Everyone does seem to leave. Derek Jeter, that Kim woman.
Right.
Kim Ang.
Yeah. Something's not right.
Yeah. Then I had 2 teams left to talk about. How many do you have?
I got
1 or 2.
Yeah, probably 2.
Okay. I don't know who your other F is then. You already said it's the Padres. I have 2 teams left.
I think I got 2.
Okay.
One is that one, and the other one is a team from the Midwest. I have 2.
Did you talk about the Rockies yet?
Not yet.
Why don't you talk about the Rockies?
Okay, Rockies is my next one.
Because the other team is my last one too. So
okay.
Let's send a message.
Yes. What can you say? At one point, they had such a fun team, offensive teams. They bashed home runs. They were the talk of the town. I mean, even though they lost their fair share of games, but at one point they had an exciting team. They had good infield, a good outfield, hit a lot of home runs in Colorado. Do it again. Pitching may never be a strength in Colorado, but make it a fun team. Right now, it's not a fun team, and they don't do anything to make it better. So, they're just always going to be last place, and it's a shame because it's a nice area.
It is a nice ballpark, but it's a terrible franchise.
Yeah.
Dad, I'll talk about another great ballpark. Franchise ? San Diego Padres. They 100% got worse.
Yeah.
What was really tough to watch is this ownership feud, and maybe that's why they don't have a direction right now. Cease or King or both are in trade rumors, but they also were linked to big names, right? They were linked to Roki Sasaki.
Yeah.
I think there was even an offer for Soto at one point. But they lost out in Sasaki. They lost Kim, Profar, Scott, Higgy. They didn't do anything to February, like my dad mentioned. And those additions were Jason Hayward, Connor Joe, and Nick Pivetta. Pivetta is a decent pitcher. They lost Joe Musgrove for the whole year, don't forget, with Tommy John. And he's worse than Joe Musgrove. So no area, in my opinion, got better. They did nothing to February, and I felt this was very reactionary, these signings. Like, they came to camp, and they went, do we not have a 5th starter?
We don't have a 40-man.
Who's playing left field?
Yeah.
And it just felt bad.
Yeah.
You sit and did nothing while your ownership, families feuded with each other, and they couldn't decide to go above the luxury tax again or trade people away. And I don't know. I thought Xander Bogaerts might have been traded this offseason, but it's an F. It was just a shit show in San Diego.
They may have one busy trading deadline. Yeah.
Dad, we have the same final team. We're wearing white. We're wearing red. It's the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Who do you want to go first?
You know what? They did zip.
That is correct.
They, whatever trades they tried to make with Arenado, they failed. I know he pulled out of the Houston trade, but now that may be back on, I'm not sure. But for a team, a legendary team in the major leagues, to absolutely do not one move during the offseason is criminal. I just think that if you're in St. Louis, you're like once a very proud franchise is really, that could be a team in last place this year.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't understand their rationale. I don't understand. They have a veteran GM. They do well with the Gates, and they have the attendance is really good. I just don't understand why so apathetic on letting their team descend the way they've done.
Yes, Cardinals had the worst offseason. They were technically a 0. Like San Diego did stuff. So, they put answers on the sheet. They just still got an F. Cardinals barely wrote their name on this test. They have no direction. they can't commit to rebuilding, retooling, going forward, improving their team. They failed, I'm going to keep using that word, they failed to trade Arenado, they failed to trade Helsley, and they failed to add literally anyone.
Yeah.
I really hope they do commit to the rebuild. Like my dad said, they are a very quality, historic franchise historically. But they need to commit to the rebuild and just bring in quality pitching, because I miss the Chris Carpenters and the young Michael Wakas. Remember little Pedro Carlos Martinez? They used to have, and Adam Wainwright, like they used to have all of these really good pitching prospects and pitching players. What does that happen? When
where'd it
Mikolas, go? No. When's the last time that the Cardinals produce a really good pitcher? They trade some away, right? I think Sandy Alcantara was a pitcher for them, and he got traded. Randy Rosarino was a Cardinal. He got traded away. Yeah. So they really do need to probably fire pretty much everyone in the last 10 years and look at how did the 2013 Cardinals make the World Series? How did the 2011 Cardinals win it, right? How did the 2006 Cardinals win it?
It was the Cardinal way. Remember those days?
Well, the Cardinal direction says otherwise, because they don't know anywhere. They're
going the wrong way.
They don't know which way's right. Dad, that was a really long podcast. I hope you listened for an hour 45 of it. It sounds like we had very similar thoughts, really, outside the Nationals. We had, I think, 7 Fs. Yeah. We might have had 10 above a B, and a lot of the bulk were C's and D's. So
truly winners and losers.
If you have thoughts, if you want to just be, share your sympathies and just be like, yeah, my team sucks, you hit it not right nail on the head, absolutely, we'll listen. If you are, if you're a team like the Nats and you're like, Patrick, Kevin, how did you give my team a D or a B or whatever, I'm seeing it this way, we love to hear different perspectives. We hope you do too. But yeah, this was fun. This was a lot of research. I'd like to thank my co-host for being very well researched in his grades. I think we're very fair graders. We were able to defend our reasoning really well. And in the future, in the not too distant future, we'll have the prediction podcast that I really like as well. Mm-hmm. The over and under podcast for our familiar listeners. And if you want to be one of those familiar listeners, give us a like, comment, subscribe, follow us on social media. We're not super active compared to other podcasts on social media, but we do appreciate the follows and the likes. We are at Pastime Podcast _ on YouTube and Instagram, and we are the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on Facebook.
I want to thank my partner because he had more metaphors about teaching and grades than ever before. I think the over-under was maybe 30. So it was really great to have that thread throughout. He did a marvelous job. So again, thanks for listening, and I hope we were entertaining.
Just to close out on that, right before the podcast, I said, Dad, I need a red pen. It'll be fun. Yeah. So all those sort of metaphors and jokes were not planned. All the research was planned, but all the jokes were just in the moment.
He's a genius.
So thanks for coming for laughs and facts. You have a great day and enjoy spring training.
Bye-bye.